brain is firing.
Brain neurons firing
Brain is
on
firing.
all circuits.
I am feeling a little sluggish today, though, so I'm not sure how my conversation.
Sluggish slow or sluggish slimy?
Not slimy for sure.
That's good.
Hey, hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to another episode of
Everything.
And Nothing.
Everything and nothing. Yes.
We are officially 25 today.
I know. Finally, I've been saying it for 3 weeks. This is it. No, we are finally there. I wanted to do something really extra special, but I just couldn't pull it together. So we're just going to talk some more.
We're too busy.
I know, so
Yeah,
busy.
25 years in the making.
25 years. Actually, well, maybe.
Yep. Yeah.
Maybe.
Happy to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's a beautiful day here in Portland. Oh my God, so gorgeous.
Yeah. There's nothing beats. We're from the old Portland, born and raised. Myself. It's a magical place. Don't move here.
Yeah, go away. It's rainy and horrible.
It is a lot of times.
Yeah. It is. Anyway, it's good to be here.
Yep.
Are we ready?
You know whose turn it is?
I do. It's yours.
Yeah, I hate that. Yeah, I knew
I don't
it.
know why it is. Okay, being second, it kind of you kind of get warmed up.
Well, I don't mind being first, but I haven't picked out a topic yet.
Oh my God! Well, I can go first because I do have a
No,
topic.
it's fine. I picked it. I pulled when we were getting our coffee earlier. I figured it out.
Okay.
And today's topic
Yeah.
is intelligence.
Oh my God.
What is intelligence? How does one become intelligent? And why even bother? What purpose does it serve?
Well, I mean, and then what kind of intelligence, right? I mean, you got emotional intelligence, and you've got
EQ versus IQ?
yeah, you got that, and you've got the intelligence of your heart and intuition, and there's so many different levels. But are you thinking of more of the book smart?
I think
Test.
intelligence is mostly the ability to problem solve. So I look at intelligence, and it's a way, the more of the world you understand, the more context you have, the more things that you can look at and say, that is this is how that works. The more frame of reference that you have, the more you have to apply to a problem that you have. At the end of the day, intelligence is being able to solve a problem, whether that's where I'm going to find food, how I'm going to build a shelter, how I'm going to build a website or a marketing strategy. And then based on all the little pieces of reference data that you have scattered around in your brain, you're able to build a cohesive strategy or an image or an idea of how to get there.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty clear cut. And so, it's funny as you're saying that, like it's funny I made that comment about my brain being sluggish because, my neurons are firing and it's like the data's going, all over my head. And so I am thinking about, what is it that, drives us to that intelligence too, It's, that's what I'm kind of feeling about this topic because quite frankly, honestly, I haven't thought of myself as a very intelligent person my whole life.
Okay.
So when people, I feel like I have very high emotional EQ. I have felt like if there's anything about life 101 or survival or thing like that, I'm like, I'm your girl. Like, man, I could survive the heck out of a lot of different things. But as far as like book smarts and things like that, I haven't really felt, at least in my earlier years, that I had that. But that's been changing. So I think your intelligence can also change, as you get older, And now it's like, I do feel like I can pick anything up and like, what is this? Because intelligence is really about that, being able to have that observation skill and reasoning and in that observing and reasoning and thinking, well, maybe it could be this or maybe it could be that, then that's you can really unfold that intelligence around what that is. And it's funny because I feel like this podcast has really been that. Because as we take something and we look at it, I feel like we're like pulling it apart and learning and figuring out and taking the magnifying glass and observing one speck of something.
I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, to understand something, to gain it, to gain intelligence, you do so through learning.
Yeah.
And learning myself, I do so most hands-on by breaking something down. You pull, the components apart of a motor, or in this case, we take an idea and we try to unwrap layers and kind of explore what it means and why it means and kind of what different definitions are and how and why it applies to ourselves or, the greater world maybe.
Yeah. And in this container, we do it not from going out and actually doing tons of research and coming back with formulated answers. The intelligence we try to pull from this everything and nothing forum is more organic, and trying to, how as human beings can we just come together, and what is collectively sitting in our brain and our experiential, field, and then how can we bring that organically in a spontaneous way to create something intelligent, and
at the end of the
go ahead.
At the end of the day too, I think intelligence is bigger than an individual. Sure, we have synapses and a giant network of neurons in our brain that, kind of builds pathways that then allow us to remember certain things. And that's super cool.
Yeah.
But I think intelligence, you look at the symmetry of the universe and the symmetry in life and the golden number and how it's repeated and, structures all the way from microorganisms to seashells and the ocean all the way up to the galactic arms of the Milky Way. There is a universal intelligence going on, which kind of is a grand design, as some people would call it, kind of anchored here through physics and through some sort of universal agreement or contract or understanding of everything. And so even on the micro scale of me, Dane Frost, someone, I think that we also tap into this, we're connected to this divinity, which is also this super intelligence. So it's not necessarily just a cerebral process. It's more of a universal order that is just a mutual understanding and agreement between us all that we can tap into to then divine or create or express or problem solve in unique and novel ways.
Well, and then that taps into also, that organized chaos. Right? Because that's another form. Because a lot of times the intelligence comes, I think, also from the chaos that we experience. It isn't always just sitting down and learning in a book. Sometimes there's this field, as you're talking about this galactic field or whatever. It isn't always orderly. It brings in that intelligence sometimes in ways that feel dissonant and nails down a chalkboard. You're and then, but if you can stay, present and observing whatever that is, whatever that discord is, and you can follow it rather than cut it off and run away from that. Because I do think everything is trying to create that intelligence in us, a way to open more, a way to observe more. And then the other thing that comes up for me is a big part of intelligence, I feel, is the ability to listen. The ability to not only, to allow that space to take things in and then just to sit with it instead of just cramming facts into the brain, because I think that there's a lot of people that are intelligent that are actually quite
dumb.
Yeah. And they're missing the whole point. They're not looking at the whole picture. So
yeah,
how can intelligence be in detriment
Well, that was one of my problems with public schools is that they teach intelligence as fact learning, book learning, memorization skill, know certain dates of certain historical events. And, that's kind of cool, I guess. But when it's all about just taking these numbers and these facts and these, gospel truths of the modern zeitgeist, the modern day understanding, it's boring and it's kind of pointless.
So yeah. How do you apply that?
Yeah.
How do you apply that to life?
Yeah.
Regurgitated facts, which also a lot of that isn't factual anymore.
Yeah.
Some of it's already changed. Mathematics is constantly evolving and changing. Science is constantly evolving and changing.
It's true.
So we're regurgitating all these facts that then some of it doesn't even really apply anymore.
Yeah, I found that particularly the case when I was studying like computer science and programming.
Oh.
The rate at which
Mm-hmm.
these fields have been evolving over the last like 10 years is so
Yeah.
exponentially fast that by the time you finish learning
Yeah.
one language, it's,
It's
they've already moved on to better
yeah,
and bigger things. Yeah, it's intelligence also, it does evolve. It is an
absolutely.
evolution. In my own, just in our own
Yeah.
individual experiences, as we learn, our understanding grows and evolves and
Mm-hmm.
reshapes and refines. And globally as well, like you were saying, it's like
Mm-hmm.
our ideas of how the universe operates on a grand scheme have been turned on their head several
Yes.
times. You
Yes.
know, the Earth is the center of the universe, and it's flat. And then all of a sudden, one day, people agree, oh, well, now it's round, and we're an insignificant speck of dust in a
Mm-hmm.
and then, oh, but this universe, which is infinitely large, is just one of infinite universes. So the
Yes.
universe is a speck. So
Yes.
the way in which our own understanding evolves and intelligence evolves also, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't
It's
even know what to say about it.
you can't even comprehend it.
It is the incomprehensible.
And so the question is like, how can we stay relevant and connected to intelligence and use it as a viable tool, but in a way that isn't so rigid and stuck and, constraining us into little tiny boxes that then we can't really change and evolve. Because one of the things that I've been really focusing on this last week is that, I want one of my superpowers to be the ability to to be able to stay in the center of change, with this sovereignty and this empowered peace that no matter what is happening around the world, no matter how things are changing around me, my family dynamics, the government, my own finances, my own career, my own peace as a woman and what that means now, no matter what is shifting and changing, because that is the constant. The constant is everything is changing every moment of every day. With all of that, how can I keep my intelligence to use the tools that I've learned, but then keep the container open so that I can see and observe and listen and apply new things as they come up?
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, poo poo. No, that's not, like when I first started doing feng shui, it's interesting. Like people were like, oh my God, this is devil worship. I mean, there was such closed-minded. It's like, oh, wow, what you're using sound and doing weird things in the environment. And if you just dissect it down, it's just a way of making your environment look better and feel better and using that energy to help you. It has nothing to do with the devil. It has nothing to do with, something mystical and, although there is that aspect of it, just because I do believe in the magic of nature and the divinity. But it's that same thing where now it's kind of evolved where, people aren't so afraid of it. Like it's some big taboo,
Intelligence we naturally gain when we all have a unique intelligence. And really, at the end of the day, we are a collection of our lived experiences.
Yes.
And through these experiences, we learn a little bit about, friendship, a little bit about being a son or being a daughter. We learn a little bit about making friends and how a neighborhood kind of sticks together and what a bad neighbor is and what a good neighbor is. And then we learn a little bit about, going to school. We learn a little bit about our hobbies, skateboarding, snowboarding, playing music, whatever it might be. And all these pieces become a part of our understanding, a part of our intelligence, things that we are able to kind of grasp onto and apply in other realms. It's myself, I'm more of a jack of all trades type of intelligence. I think there's like two ways to go about it. One is like, for me, myself personally, I'm extremely curious and I see something new and I'm like, oh, I want to understand that. And I do that for like 6 months. I'm like, oh, I learned programming. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I learned a little sound engineering. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I learned 3D printing for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, CAD design. Oh, that's a cool thing. Photography. So I get pulled in all these different directions. So I have a very superficial understanding of a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's where you have people that devote, 20, 30,
Lifetime.
50, 60 years to a single craft,
Yeah.
to just making blades. They just understand steel, every detail about steel, every detail about an edge and a bevel. You have people that spend their entire life just studying computers and software, and they understand everything from the hard code all the way on at the very base of the hardware level, all the way up to all the new languages. So,
Or Yasu.
Yeah.
A dear friend or a friend of the family that passed away, and he spent his whole life perfecting how to make violins.
Well, yeah, and learning 8 languages and learning a lot of other stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was a master woodsworker.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I'm 40 years old now. One of my regrets is like I never just stuck with one thing, but it's a pointless regret because I understand a lot of things superficially, and that has served me well as well.
Yeah. And it's funny because for me, I've taken a completely different road with intelligence, is because, and again, it's like, I think that's the beautiful thing of human beings, is there's no right or wrong or good or bad at this. It's like we all just come in to learn different parts of the same wheel. And for me, I think because I didn't have that belief in myself as, I struggled in school. I didn't really have anybody teaching me and helping me learn how to take tests. And I was really on my own, and I struggled a lot. So what I had to do is I went in and really refined and became a master at my intuition, at trusting how things felt, like understanding like what the meaning was behind things that, it was more of an energetic thing. And so for me, I've always found doctors, I've always found contractors, I've always found my next step by the way things feel. And people are like, oh, well, why did you pick that modality? And I'm like, I have no idea. It's just I knew it was the right one for me. And they're like, what? That makes no sense.
Exactly.
But for me, it's like perfect sense, because that inner world piece is so real and more viable than my mind. My mind can take me off and really get me fucked up. But if I go with my intuition, I always pick the right doctor. I always pick the right contractor. It's always the best thing for me. Yeah. And it's like, that's how I've used my intelligence, is through the trust. And it's almost like being blind in a way, like, or deaf. It's like, I can kind of feel my way through life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, that's my intelligence, is like, I can really pull from that and see things and know things that I don't even have to understand.
I think it is. I think emotional intelligence is an intelligence. Not only that, I think that, so I have a little bit of that. I think everybody has a little bit of that.
Yes,
but
everyone
I think that's
does.
one of the main divides between sexes, is that I think women are a lot more in tuned with being able to have that sixth sense and read people and read situations, is where men are much more inclined to, let's pull every piece out of this Lego set and every piece out of this remote control for my TV and let's understand it. Let's look at it all and think about it.
Interesting.
That's like my friend Brian and a bunch of my friends growing up, like we're tinkerers. We love just pulling stuff apart and breaking down politics logically and thinking about all the different scenarios. It's thank God we have you, because it's a fucking great skill set.
It is. It is great, and that's the beauty, is I think that we can really learn from each other. And
I think they both also tap into that divinity conscious fabric also. I think they come from the same place.
Right. And they're both created for, that for the reason, right? I mean, and what greater intelligence, seriously, than pulling from everything to make the whole,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I strive to do with, everything, is try to look for the intelligence and pull everything together, whether it's with schooling or whether it's with doctors. And that's why, I know that the Western medical, has its role in the world, but I went more to the Eastern philosophy of, medicine, because they were looking at the whole person, not dissecting like, well, why is this wrist hurt? I was like, oh, well, we need to go in and do carpal tunnel surgery. And then come to find out it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with something that was up and out here, where if they looked at the whole body, and so that's where I feel like I'm moving more into my intelligence, is how can I pull from everything and not just the things that I like? Because I've been in some hard conversations lately, where it's not comfortable. But again, going back to intelligence, I think is also the ability to move yourself out of the way, move your ego out of the way, and listen, and also admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't have that right. I think there's something better.
That's one of, I think, the most crucial pieces of learning and gaining your own understanding of the world, is the whole metaphor of how can you fill your cup if it's already full. And I think we brought this to this podcast several times. It's like, I love the idea and the knowledge that I'm wrong about most of what I talk about on here. I don't know.
I don't share that.
I don't have the answers. Well, it's like,
No, I totally get what you're saying.
I think I have kind of a grip on a lot of things, but everything that I know, I know that it's not the most perfect knowledge of
absolutely.
it. There's improvement to be made.
Yes.
There's deeper understanding there that I don't see, that I don't
Yes.
understand. And I would love a teacher in all of these things that I, know to help me improve. I love pushback. I love you guys to tell me where I'm wrong. I love it when you guys tell me when I'm wrong, except even though I get grumpy sometimes. But I do. I without that pushback, without that feedback, without that reflection and rebuilding, like analyzing and recommitting new things to your beliefs, you just end up stuck and you can't learn anything new.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would say I also do like to learn, but I will say it feels a lot better when I feel like I'm right.
Oh, it feels great.
When I feel like I know something, I'm like, oh, I nailed that. But then I always, I mean, there's moments for everything. But yeah, it is about that, learning from myself. And I mean, really, truthfully, at the end of the day, I know that I don't know a lot. And I know a lot for right here, right now. But it's going to change. But I wanted to ask a question. So, I just really quick around this. So like, what is the purpose of intelligence? I mean, how can we most use it then? Like why, what is it that we can most get from this conversation today moving forward?
Well, I think the purpose of intelligence, like I said, is to problem solve. And it's also kind of like a plant. You want to nurture it and grow it. So on a day-to-day basis, you should be approaching experiences and new opportunities with an air of, what can I learn from this?
Curiosity.
What can I contribute to this, and what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
New people that you talk to. That's one of the cool things about intelligence too, is that it's synergistic.
Yeah.
When you combine it with multiple people, you potentially, like putting the right ingredients into a recipe, end up with something even more beautiful and more like, rich and deep with contributing intelligences and ideas.
Yes.
So, get out there, share with people, learn from people, teachers, peers, mentors, even children and people who you might culturally you might assume are just stupid and don't know anything. Learn from your own kids, learn from everybody around you. Because at the end of the day, every moment of your life is just an experience that you're in. What's going on? What can this moment teach me? Even if it's just patience,
And I think that where I want to move this and take away from this conversation today is like, where can I take the intelligence and move out to the world and not know everything? Like, where can I go and ask questions and be curious about other people and not be leading the conversation like, oh, this is what I know and that's what I learned, and that, but rather moving more to questions, like, well, who are you and what are you doing? And that curious intelligence, that curiosity of listening and observing and expanding my intelligence through really looking out the lens at what else is out there besides what I already know and have experienced.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me pivot real quick.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this morning, and it's why I chose this topic.
Yeah.
What do you think of artificial intelligence?
Well, I mean, go back 2 or 3 months ago, and I was like, ugh, this is awful, and fear. A lot of fears, like what's this artificial crap coming into our worlds, more of that. But it's interesting because I've also pivoted, because I've also sat in meditation a lot, and it's like a lot of things with our human experience. It's like once, the genie's coming out of the bottle, it's coming out and you can't put it back in. So like everything, I'm going to the place like, how can I use this as a responsible tool, not to replace humanity, not to replace my own creativity and my own sacredness, but how can I, because again, I think we're at one of these places where we're going through a big evolutionary shift, so it's like, how can I adapt to this and use it in a positive way? It's just like with all the social media and everything like that, right? You can use all this and doom scroll and everything, and it could be a complete, it can depress you, and you can just lose hours on it and get addicted to it, or you can practice using it intelligently in a way that it can be a tool to help. So I've completely changed my tune about it. I see it as a way of helping me get more organized, more creativity as far as like organizing ideas and things and helping me regulate and research more. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Is it intelligence?
I have no idea. I'd have to think about that.
All right. Well, I have thought about that.
Okay, well, tell me what you think.
I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well. I think honestly, it's a tool. You know, like with the invent of the internet, I think it's probably somewhere close to those lines. It's just a new way of interfacing and cross-talking between different programs and converting that cross-talk into English or language parlance, which makes it more accessible to the layman. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is it intelligent? I think AI is basically a very sophisticated word calculator that can integrate with code and backends of programs to accomplish coding tasks. And those might manifest as, you know, words on a screen or doing a lot of things that you can, you know, code for. It's
But that's a form of intelligence. I'm not saying it's a thinking intelligent, like.
Is a calculator intelligent?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think one of the main fears people have had, we all watched Terminator growing up.
Oh, yeah.
If you're, you know,
Well,
over
any of those.
25 years old. And so like the whole idea of like this thing becoming sentient and omniscient and aware and controlling of its own destiny. You know, I think everybody's feared that a little bit because there was a lot of hype around that. And like I said, we grew up with that in movies. Mm-hmm. But the more I think about it, I don't think that's possible. And once again, I might be wrong on this. So this is just, you know, where I'm at right now. Mm-hmm. But because intelligence is rooted deeper than just this firing of neurons, because there's that divine element of kind of cosmic intelligence that you have to tap into to be creative, I don't see how this can meet that criteria. Now, maybe it's possible that some more future advancements will happen in, like, you know, chip construction or something along those lines, which will allow something like that. But as of right now, I think, yeah, it's a tool. It's worth investigating. It's worth looking into. And let's...
Yeah, and I've just started investigating, so I don't really know tons about it. I'm just now looking into it and learning more about it. So this is a conversation that maybe we could come back to at another time.
Nope.
And I'll know a little bit more.
We're done. This topic's over.
I'll have some intelligence that
Good.
I've accumulated.
About artificial intelligence. Man, but you know us. We grew up, our family's organic. We're organic, man. We're organic potatoes. We're organic intelligence. I'm organic intelligence over here.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely want to keep that organics.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Well, my coffee is too small.
I know. We've been doing a lot today before this meeting, so we already drank our stuff. So we're down to water.
We're in a world of hurt now.
We're hurting. There's no more coffee left. So I think we'll take a quick break, and we'll see y'all in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Hello. My name is Dane Frost, the inventor, CEO over at Belt Shelf LLC. We are just revamping another run of product, doing some updates on the old model, and getting ready to relaunch our website on our website homepage and our storefronts at beltshelf.org and on Amazon. Check us out. Get a good belt. Get a good belt shelf. And see what we can do for you. Thank you.
This feels funny on my head today.
Yarr.
Get it back. Hello.
Hello again.
Hi, guys. We're back. Part 2 of everything and nothing.
I was just going to not say anything because that would have implied nothing.
That's good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm feeling, like I said, a little sluggish today, but that's okay. Yeah, so I've had an interesting 2 weeks. It's funny because last time we were talking with the love about relationships, and it seems like whatever we talk about here, it's like I get a opportunity to process stuff, you know, like, let's look at love relationships. And, you know, it just seems like it just awakens something in my environment, in my world, in my field around me. And I had a lot of issues come up for me around the relationship between males and females, some past history. And so I wanted to talk about today. So what, because, you know, you're going to hold the male and I'm going to hold the female. It's so funny because you were kind of bringing it in a little bit in your topic today. But what is it that is, you know, with this, you know, because I feel like our world's going through a thing, like what is the dynamic between men and women, both positive and negative? Like, what is this, what's happening between the way that men and women are hating on each other or putting each other down, or, you know, like all of that stuff. And then also what's happening where, you know, we can honoring the gifts of the man and, you know, the healthy part of it. And like, what are you feeling as a man? Do you, you know, in this dynamic between men and women?
Men don't feel.
Yeah. What is your experience in this? Maybe you don't feel. What do you think about this?
I'm kidding, obviously.
I know. But I know that's kind of all over the board. But
oh yeah, that's a big one.
I know it's
That's
a really.
boo-hah.
I know I get to blow your mind. But anyway, it's been really up for me, and I'll explain more later. But I'll just open the floor to you right now.
So the topic is just the male-female paradigm?
Dynamic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Negative and positive.
I mean, yeah, there are clear differences, you know. Men are strength. Women are compassion. Men are courage. Women are caretaking. Men are angry. Women hold grief. There's these, and everything's generalized, right? So obviously there's exceptions to every rule, right?
Yes, and nuances.
Yep, and everybody has a little bit of both, of all of this in them.
Yes. But,
you know, these archetypes have gone back as far as recorded history, and they manifest as self-evident. There's really no way to argue against them. And so there is a difference. There is a clear biological and emotional and intelligence and very measurable differences kind of across every aspect. I mean, we're also both human, so we're so similar in so much of who we are and what we do and how we operate. There's much more commonality than there is difference. But because we're human and we see so many types of diversity in humans, and because we, you know, for survival purposes, you know, invest so much of our intelligence into understanding humans, we also notice the differences. And there are differences in these things that I've noted. And it's beautiful, quite frankly. It's, you know, I love being a man, and I love women being women. It's absolutely kind of perfection. There is, you brought up, like, you know, hatred between the sexes. And I think that a lot of that is seeded. A lot of that is also probably fake. And a lot of that is kind of a psyop, psychological operation. I feel like for a long time, well, probably also since the beginning of history, there's been this maxim of you control, you lead, you empower yourself by dividing and conquering. So how do you divide? Well, you divide by reinforcing already, you know, natural divisions and ideological divisions. So you divide through competing churches. You divide through racism. You divide through sexism. And those are, and I guess one of the other big ones today would be homo versus heterosexuality. I think there's probably more I'm forgetting, but you take these categories of people and you enforce separation, you enforce difference, you enforce bigotry. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It means that basically you spin media and news stories to enforce it existing and to get one side to see the other side. Like you basically prop up the examples of when it does happen and put a magnifying glass on it to make it really evident to everybody that, oh, there's some homophobics out there. Oh, we got to really be against them, right? It creates that resentment. Look at this TikTok video. There's some woman being a total biatch. Oh, but now I'm a man. I'm really offended by that. Oh, look at this. This guy is being a player and lying and cheating on his girl, you know, and you prop up these stories and you highlight them. You also don't always have to, like, it's like people are fascinated by train wrecks anyways. People are fascinated by murder mysteries, by people doing very immoral and very unbelievable, and evil is
Real.
not just interesting, but almost seductive. People want to look at it and want to understand it and want to dissect it.
Yes.
Because it's such a human thing that we all relate to. It's also so unfathomable at the same time.
Right.
So, like I said in the beginning, it's like we want to understand humanity. We invest a lot of time into that. Therefore, we do notice the differences.
Yeah.
And because we're trying to understand that, we also want to look at these extreme cases.
Yeah.
To understand ourselves and potential threats in our society better.
Yeah.
Now, that's a broad stroke, and I don't even know if I answered any of your questions.
Oh my God.
Because I don't remember what they were.
Above
but
and
please
beyond,
go.
but I'll come back. No, that was a big answer, and it was good because I feel like you definitely brought a lot of things, and and I'm just gonna, the reason why this came up is, like I said, we were talking about love and relationships and all of that, and I was meeting with some friends last week, and we were going to do, it's for a friend of mine, it's birthday, Katie, shout out, and we were going to do a little small ancestral ceremony, like honoring our ancestors, and we were talking about, what part of your ancestry, story wants to be told and healed, and then, if you look at your ancestral roots, like what's something that could be pruned or like transplanted, or like, to bring this into manifestation, right? And so I had in my mind something that I wanted to talk about during this, what I wanted to bring for this blessing ceremony, and it ended up being something completely different. And what showed up, and and when I talk about, I'm very transparent about who I am. But when I talk about these things, it's not like it's all 100% me. We're talking about small pieces of me. But what came up was that this feeling that I'm carrying around, how I have some deep-seated hatred towards men. And I was shocked as I started telling stories. I was like, wow, I did not know this was even in me, because I felt like I'd healed this. And not even just hatred, but there was also like parts of me who felt like I was better than men. That I think they're kind of like ignorant and not very intelligent. A real arrogance about myself. And also that I think that there's, like, I sometimes feel very disgusted. And I hope by sharing this, again, like I'm saying, like, I don't go around being like, oh, I hate men. That's not what I'm saying. It's like, it's an uncovering of a wounding that's inside of me. And I was really shocked. And I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea this was still holding a place. And where it came from is, like I've talked a little bit about, my oldest brother who, was really very violent with me as a child. And I had a lot of really dramatic, painful experiences from the men. And, my dad didn't really protect me. And I love my older brother still. I love my father. But I definitely was in a position growing up in this world where the men in my life were not protecting me. They were my abusers, and they were hurting me. And that continued to be my story for many, many years. And then as I was looking at this ancestral tree, it's like things come down because my mom hated men. And she was, much stronger in that than I was. And then I looked at my grandmother on my matriarchal side and my father's side, and they both did not like men. I mean, even more rageful. And so I think that sometimes these seeds are even, like, it's even handed down through our lineage. We're taught, like racism is taught, we're taught sometimes. And so I had this real awakening. And so I've been really sitting these last 2 weeks and working on forgiving myself for holding this anger and contempt for men, because the truer truth is I believe men are this divine spark of God too, and that they are beautiful and that they hold a very relevant, important part of our world, just like women do. But I have been really looking at that toxicity and that push-pull, because it was also relevant. I mean, it was also evident on the men's side of our family. You know, like we were called bitches and whores and bossy. And in our family, it's like way back when, it's like when we would get together for family events, it's like the men would go over here and the women would go over here, and everybody would just talk bad about each other. I mean, we spent a lot of time trashing each other. And, you know, and it's funny because once my mom passed, you know, as a family, we kind of got together and said, like, we get to pick something different. Let's stop this. Why don't we start celebrating and recognizing the gifts that we each hold? And we've really been healing that a lot in our family. But that's kind of the impetus for this, you know, this podcast today. So I'm just curious, you know, and I'll answer the question myself, but as a man, do you feel in the world that you are criticized and put down? And like, do you feel that toxicity from women? You know, when you're out and about and just living?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's not unique to men. I think every human being has a cross that they have to bear and ridicule they have to go through. And that's just kind of part of, you know, being a unique person. You know, everybody's going to get hatred for something. I mean, I will say in the last 10 years, I feel like there's been a huge push for this idea of diversity and inclusion and equity. And, you know, through looking for grants for my business, where every single grant that I've applied for asks how many women or minorities own the company. And I'm like, well, I'm neither, I guess.
You're the only white man.
You know, I remember working in a lab when I was working for Portland State University and OHSU doing cancer research. I had a boss who was a Trinidadian lady. Love her very much. She was a very compassionate, great teacher, and was a great experience working for her. But she told me verbatim one day, she's like, "You're just a white man. You'll never understand the world." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's your perspective, I guess. I don't know what to do about that." I mean, I think that I would say the hardest part of being a man probably, and this is just my first pass analysis, it's that we are stronger and aggressive. Like, those are two very masculine traits. So a lot of times being a big guy walking down the street, like, you know, you feel people kind of fear you a little bit. Like, and this is part of that emotional intelligence you're talking about. Like, it's not anything like, you know, that people don't cower from you, but sometimes people will cross the street. A lot of people do avoid eye contact. Starting a conversation with a woman typically comes with a lot of ice you have to break first. Like, there's obviously difficulties. Now, the opposite side of that equation, I'm sure, is also very, very true. You know, there's a lot of crosses that women bear.
Yes.
And there's a lot of, you know, those abuse, like the ice that I have to break exists because there's men out there that abuse and misuse and mistreat people, and especially women. So it's like they have to have that wall up, and I get that. But it sucks for me. I just want to have a pleasant conversation sometimes, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And the same, you know, is true on my side, because I feel like sometimes, you know, I'm labeled a bitch or whatever if I'm too bossy, or, you know, and I'm really wanting to talk about this, you know, and there is a lot of things that are unsafe. Like you and I have talked about this. Like, I'm really jealous of Dane sometimes because he can go anywhere, any time of day, go for a hike by himself, you know, like all of these things. And it's like, I can't. I constantly have to, you know, I have to gauge the situation as like, am I safe or am I not? And even to the point, like, I have a sixth sense, but I've gone to hiking trails and my sixth sense is like, absolutely do not get out of the car and go for a hike today. You cannot do it. And I drive away. And I didn't used to listen to that. And I would actually have very, you know, like unpleasant things happen. Sometimes very dangerous things happen. So I really listen to that. So that is a real thing. But I also feel like there's a lot of unhealthy, I've seen a lot of unhealthy female reactions as well. It's like, it's almost like wanting to take the baton and do the same kind of behavior of like, well, we're going to punish you now and we're going to beat the shit out of you. And, you know, And I'm looking at this as, I'm really trying to look at this from that intelligent center piece, and observe, because I've been writing a series which I'm calling Sacred Masculinity and Sacred Femininity, and I've been doing research about like where's the breakdown that happened, and like why some of these things are happening, and how do we start to evolve out of this? Because just because I was abused, by certain people who had these woundings, doesn't mean I want to take the baton and then go start beating the fuck out of people somewhere else. It's like, how is that any better? Like, how is that going to help the situation? Like, oh, okay, well, you've belittled me and raped me or whatever, so now I'm going to go do the same to you. Nobody wins.
Yeah.
Nobody wins. And that's kind of why I want to have this conversation, is because what I'm coming to inside of myself is that I feel like we all have to grow up and stop, like the same thing with war. Oh, you killed our people, so now we're going to kill your people. Oh, now you killed our people, we're going to kill your people.
Yeah,
now we're going to kill.
It's feud escalation.
It never ends. And so what about, like, how about we don't have power over and we don't have power under? How about we just share? How about we just come together and acknowledge the sacredness of men? Because I see that in you, and you're so loyal and you're kind. There's so much I love about you. And I feel like what that hatred piece in me was about wasn't even based on something in the present time. It's all based on stuff that was either handed down to me or things that happened in the past, but it's not relevant now. And instead it's like, I want, like, how can I connect my gifts and my sovereignty and my power and connect it with the sacred sovereignty power of a man? And, then coming together in that place and honoring each other. I don't know. That's just, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I almost feel like crying because it is an emotional issue for me. And it's an emotional issue for me because, first of all, like I said, I was shocked because I don't want to carry hatred in myself anymore for anything. Not for men, not for Christians, because you heard me talk about, and usually my hatred comes from, and I use hatred, I know that's a really strong word, and I'm not walking around seething of hate. I'm just not that kind of person. But I am using that word because I want it to be more dramatic, so that the point's made that I don't want to hold that for anything. I don't want to carry that kind of energy in my body towards anything or anyone. And it's hard to admit it. I could just come to this podcast and say, oh, no, I'm good, and Jim and I love each other, and all the men are great. But I wouldn't be telling you the truth, and I wouldn't heal, and I wouldn't evolve, and I wouldn't become more intelligent.
Well, we all carry hatred a little bit, I guess, and that's just, I use it also just like a detestation of something in the world out there. Not towards women, not towards men. I hate stupid actions. I was going to say stupid people, but really it's not even the person that I hate. It's just people making dumb decisions, hurting each other, and dragging this world down. Because at the end of the day, this society and this culture, we have a lot of work to do.
We do.
I don't know if it's just because getting older, I become more aware of it. So it looks like the problems are getting more severe and deeper. But there has been a lot of wedges driven into the fabric of society, particularly over the last 20 years. You see it probably the most pronounced between political parties. But yeah, between the sexes also. There's so many incels talking about how evil women are, and femcels saying the opposite.
How evil men are, and
yeah,
it's
it's gotten out of hand.
It's out of control.
And like I
agree.
said, maybe it was always this way. Maybe I'm just finally becoming aware of it. And maybe by coming aware of it, we can actually start to remedy these problems.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, you're right. Women, absolutely beautiful, absolutely unique, the creators of life, the holders of compassion, the guiders of guidance. Men are absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
We hold power, we hold strength, we hold that courage to make walking down a trail alone doable and easy.
And could be our protectors.
Yeah. And together with those two sides of the coin, with that yin and that yang, with that harmony, it's like we could build something, and we do. Beautiful. A lot of us, we build, beautiful lives.
Yes.
But it would be pretty cool to see that on a global or a national or an entire societal level. Like, what could we really do if we, got rid of all of this wasted energy on nagging about somebody else that really doesn't have any bearance over our life? When I'm going to go online and complain about what some random lady said on TikTok a week or two ago, it's like,
why?
What use of my energy is that,
Yes.
really?
Yes. There's so many more creative, fulfilling things that could be done. Or trolling.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you want to just spend your time trolling and putting people down, and I don't know. But I do know people that does seem to really
Hey, me
juice them.
Me
I
20
they
years
really,
ago, when I was 20,
they love it.
when I was retarded, it was a lot of fun. I like trolling people. Let's get a reaction.
Yeah, you did. You really liked to poke the bear. I didn't like that about you then.
It's how I learned. I had to learn.
I was like, dang, oh my gosh. Which, poking the bear. Yeah. But, yeah. So, and for me, it just, again, comes back to, I'm really grateful that I was able to reveal this piece inside of myself, because I do feel that the responsibility of the change that's going to happen in our world is going to be from each one of us taking that responsibility and making that shift. So if there is a place where you're seething and hating and whatever, I don't know, maybe that intelligence thing, just start opening it up and looking at it and questioning it. And, like, how could you spread beauty? How, I don't know. And I've really been looking at, like, since this awakening, and I'm feeling really emotional about this, but I've been really looking at you and Jim and the men in my life, and I've been feeling just so much gratitude. And, just for what you bring to our world and the beauty. And the interesting thing is that with this, we're also holding both masculine and feminine. This is that we hold both of those energies. Everyone, men, women, we hold both of those inside of ourselves. And I've been feeling like there's a healthier masculine energy coming into my own body, that I'm making peace, with the world. And when I'm out, I'm actually making a conscious decision to look at men and what is it I love about that man in this moment? Like, noticing what's half full with the men, the glass half full syndrome is like, and making comments, like the other day, I have a friend who's kind of like my big brother, and I was just like, oh, I just love how I feel so protected around you, or you make me feel safe, or, and just acknowledging.
Oh, you got a nice bulge.
No, I wasn't saying that at all. No, but it's, like, because I believe that what we think and what we speak is going to create our world. And if I'm going around going like, well, that guy's an asshole, like that guy was just a big fucking dick, excuse my language, but that's not helpful. That's not helping anyone. How is that helpful? It's like, wow, what's going on inside? Maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe he's hurting. Maybe it's the anniversary of somebody who passed. Like, I don't know, but why do I have to just label it as just like some big male asshole? It's like, I'm kind of done with that. It's like, I want to start reprogramming myself to just really see people, and not just dumping random labels on everybody, And again, it's not like this is happening 24/7, but it's happening enough that I want to be transparent and uncover that so that I can even get better. I want to be an impeccable human being.
I want that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be impeccable. Like, when I leave this world, it's like, I'm not going to be going like, oh, wow, those things I did. Oh, wish I wouldn't have done that. Wish I wouldn't have said that. I'm going to be like, cleaned up my stuff, was honest, truthful, and just did my very best. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. If you got a dick, be a great, beautiful man.
Yeah.
If you got tits, be a great, beautiful woman. Just embrace it. We are different. We each carry a unique side of this duality, and together, look around. It's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Anyway, I think I'm complete.
All right. We can call it there.
Or you have anything else you want to say?
No. Once again, I'm sure I could run on for however long, like a train off the rails, but No, I think, practicing feeling the energy, my emotional intelligence is saying it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Well, we just invite you, maybe find someone you can have your own conversation with and unpack your own stuff and just just keep on journeying wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just keep on going, man.
Who are you? What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Keep looking at it. Become an expert in you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Well, until next time, be well. Sending all of our love. Many blessings. Done.
All
Good.
right.
That was a big topic.
You like that one?
Well, I mean, it was definitely less fluff than we normally do.
Fluff.